Hey everyone, and welcome into this episode today. I am feeling so lit up and happy and excited to be bringing you this conversation and this topic today. We're going to be talking about the topic of sensuality and magnetism. And I'm going to be giving you 5 keys to awakening your sensuality and your magnetism. And the reason I'm feeling so lit up and inspired around this is because I've literally just come off a call that I was leading this morning, a embodiment call for my Divine Femme women. We do embodiment calls live together once a month. And in this embodiment call, I led the women through a session specifically on awakening their sensuality. And I am feeling so radiant and nourished and alive and just so full and overflowing after leading that session. And I just wanted to channel all of this energy that I'm feeling into this episode and share all of this juicy, luscious energy with you and come and have a conversation about sensuality, which is really inspired by what I led the women through this morning. And so I'm going to talk about 5 powerful keys today. And this really ties into what I led the women through in the session. I was touching on these 5 keys to sensuality and magnetism in the session, in how I was guiding them through the practices. So I really wanted to touch on this in more depth in a podcast episode. And this flows on so beautifully from my last podcast episode as well, my most recent one on becoming a fully expressed woman, because we were talking in there about the dark feminine. And this is an element of the feminine that I'm really wanting to bring through more in my podcasts and my conversations this year. And I really want to help you get more tapped into this aspect of you this year. And, working with our sensuality, our pleasure, our sexuality is kind of the realm of the dark feminine. So this conversation is really an activation into more of your dark feminine essence and will help you explore more of this aspect of your feminine energy as well. So you might think, you might wonder to yourself, why is sensuality important? Why does this topic even matter? Why would I even want to listen to a podcast episode about sensuality? Well, this is an incredibly important quality and practice for us as women. Our sensuality as women is nourishment for us. It is nectar to our feminine bodies. Our sensuality allows us to cultivate a feeling of aliveness and pleasure and fullness inside our own bodies. It's how we more deeply experience joy through the physical world, through the most simple, mundane things. Our sensuality fills us up. It can make us feel and help us feel whole from within. And when it does that in turn, it makes us magnetic because we are so full and nourished by our own life force, our own eros, our own pleasure, and the joy and aliveness that we're cultivating inside of our bodies through experiencing the world through our senses, that then it just overflows from us. And it literally creates this magnetic aura and energy around us. And our sensuality allows us to self-source goodness from within ourselves, from within our own bodies, through our 5 senses, rather than having to seek for it externally. Because how much are so many of us grasping and seeking externally for hits of pleasure, for hits of stimulation, for hits of love, for that dopamine rush, whether you get it from social media or a dating app or online shopping, it doesn't matter. We're all wired to seek for that. And we are seeking for that externally. And that's leaving us in this really chasing, graspy, lacking, needy, incomplete energy inside of ourselves, always needing more. And through working with our own sensuality and therefore our own pleasure and our own bodies and being able to source this from inside our own body, we're cultivating this inner sense of wholeness and fullness that leaves us satiated, that leaves us nourished, that leaves us full, and really eliminates any of that need for grasping and chasing those really simple, superficial hits of it outside of ourselves, because we're satisfied. And we know how to access so many of those feelings we want to feel from within our own bodies. So it's incredibly powerful work. And I think working with our sensuality is incredibly important for women who either, one, tend to be more in their masculine energy, or two, are women who are really deep in their healing journeys, in the inner work, doing the shadow work, the trauma healing work, the feminine healing work. Because both of those paths, whether you're quite masculine and everything's about doing and achieving and your life is so busy and so full and you're always rushing and you're always feeling stretched and maxed out, or whether you're someone that's so deep in the trenches of your own shadow work and healing that at times it just feels like life feels pretty heavy and there's just one thing after another for you to have to look at and work through inside yourself. Like, that can get heavy. That can leave us as women, both of those paths, feeling very weighed down and very burdened, dull in our energy, depleted, and uninspired, like not lit up about life, not turned on about life, not in our radiance and our aliveness. And so if we're in either of those paths, either living, walking quite a masculine path, or really deep in our feminine healing work, or maybe both, it's so important that we're also integrating alongside that feminine practices that bring pleasure, that bring joy, that turn on our radiance, that help us feel alive and nourished and sensual, and really tapping into like the goodness of life. I think in any trauma healing journey especially, it's so important that we're also really having a reference point to the goodness of life, that it helps us find a sense of safety and ease inside our own bodies, inside, around everything else that we're navigating. So, if you are a woman that is feeling weighed down and burdened, and like life is feeling hard and heavy, and you're becoming a bit jaded, and you're feeling very far from magnetic, then I would invite you to really take on board what I'm going to share with you in this episode and begin to really focus on your pleasure, your sensuality, and working with feminine practices to tap you into just more goodness, more good feelings. And so our sensuality, and you'll learn more about it as I go through this episode, this is not necessarily related to sexuality, although they can go hand in hand. People very often think of sensuality as sexuality, and sensuality doesn't have to be sexual at all. There doesn't have to be anything even slightly sexual about it, or it can become very sexual depending on how you are working with it and channeling it. But your sensuality is your ability to experience pleasure and nourishment and goodness through your 5 senses. It's how you experience the physical world through the felt sense experience of your body, and how by attuning to that, you can really amplify the level of sensation you can feel, the level of pleasure that you can feel, and the depth to which you can feel and experience everything through those senses of touch, taste, sight, sound, and smell. And so we can bring sensuality to any moment, to the most mundane, simple moments, to the simplest things that we are doing if we attune to our senses, if we attune to our felt sense, if we slow things down and we set the intention to feel more deeply. So we can bring it into the everyday. We can bring it into any moment. And this is such a gift of being a woman who has a more sensitive body, a more sensitive nervous system, is we have that sensitivity to be able to attune to the subtleties in everything. And through really attuning to it and getting present to it, we can amplify our experience of it. So it's a really beautiful practice for us to learn how to work with. And sensuality can be a precursor into sexuality. It can lead into you more deeply understanding and experiencing your sexuality, or they can be completely separate. It really is how you choose to work with it. So I'm going to give you 5 really beautiful keys to activating and awakening your sensuality and in turn your magnetism. Because as I'm going to share, your sensuality and your magnetism go really hand in hand. Like a woman who is really tapped in to her sensuality is incredibly magnetic. Because this all comes down to the energy you embody and you radiate. So these 5 principles and these 5 keys will really support you with becoming more sensual and more magnetic. Now, before I share those with you, I have 2 really exciting announcements for you. The first is I have a free training coming up next week. So at the time of recording this, it's next week. It is on Thursday, the 13th of February. It is running live and it is called Reclaim Your Feminine. And I'm super excited to lead this. This is going to be a fantastic training for you. If you want to make 2025 the year that you live and lead and love from your feminine. Yeah, if you want to make this the year that you start to reclaim your feminine essence and shift out of masculine overdrive and return to yourself, return to your body, return to your pleasure, your sensuality, your magnetism, and really heal your relationship to your feminine energy. It's a really powerful training, a lot of simple, very practical starting steps in there for you. So come and register your spot for that free training. Go down to the show notes, running live on February 13th. So come and register for that. And even if you can't make it live, you'll be sent the replay to watch as well. And then the second announcement is that Divine Femme enrollments are open until Sunday, the 16th of February. So we have an intake for Divine Femme starting in February. It will be starting on Monday, the 17th. And so doors will be closing on Sunday, the 16th. And this is your chance to get into this intake, my loves. If you want to come and join us on this incredible journey of feminine healing, feminine embodiment, stepping into your full feminine power, Divine Femme is the place to be, to come and do the work, to be amongst an incredible community of women, to come to live calls with me, live embodiment calls, live coaching calls. This is a transformational 6-month experience. So come to conniechapman.com/divinefemme and come and join us before the doors close on Sunday, the 16th of February. Okay. So let's get into our 5 keys. I don't know if you can tell, but I am so lit up by this conversation. If you're watching me on YouTube, you can probably see I'm glowy and radiant. It is just the most beautiful thing for us as women to access this part of ourself. And it just shifts us out of being in the mundane everyday of life that we all get caught in, right? Being mothers, being business owners, having jobs, having all these obligations and having all these, hard and heavy and challenging things that happen in life. Our ability to access our own sensuality, our own pleasure, our own turn on, our own aliveness, our own joy, and find goodness through our own bodies is such a gift, and it's absolutely necessary. Okay, so let's get on in. The first key to awakening your sensuality and your magnetism is to lean back. Okay, now if you're watching on YouTube, you'll sort of see some of my physiology as I talk about this, but otherwise you'll just get a feel for it if you're listening on audio. What I want you to do right now, wherever you're sitting, is I want you to lean back. So if you have a chair behind you, a wall, a couch, whatever is behind you, I want you to lean back into the surface behind you and let it completely hold your body. Okay. So I'm leaning back as I'm speaking this, but I'm going to stay close to the mic and talk you through it. I want you to lean back and already notice the difference in your energy when you are, say, sitting up, leaning forward at the computer, or you're leaning forward into the world, trying to make things happen, or you're leaning forward into a relationship, trying to get what you want, versus when you lean back. Lean back right now, sink back into your body. Lean back into the surface behind you and let it hold you. Take a deep breath into your belly and let your body soften. Lean back into your own spine, almost as though you're pulling all your energy back into yourself. Because very often our energy is incredibly outward. Especially if we function from our masculine energy, we are out in the world. We are externally focused all the time. And many of us are in a leaning forward physiology majority of the time. Now, leaning forward is more masculine, it's more penetrative, it's more initiative, it's more of a leading energy, right? So when we're leaning forward in anything we do, we are tending to come more into that masculine, I'm going to make it happen kind of energy. But the minute you lean back and you relax and you soften your body, you draw all your energy back into yourself. You feel the back of your spine holding you, and you pull your awareness and energy back into yourself. I want you to feel the difference. Can you feel the shift in that? And even in this moment, invite your breath even to become a little more sensual as you do that. A little richer, a little deeper, maybe even just wiggle your body ever so slowly or slightly and feel it melt more into the surface behind you. You've just leaned back more into your feminine. You've just leaned back more into your own sensual energy because you're feeling yourself now, right? So a sensual woman has an inner awareness. She has an inner awareness on herself, on her own body, on what she's feeling, on what she's needing. She's not out in the world chasing, grasping, hustling. She's relaxed, sinking back into her own essence, feeling her own body, holding her awareness on herself, and having a sensual relationship with the world. So almost as you're sitting here leaning back, I want you to tuck your chin a little and just lower your gaze. And just feel as you lean back how this energy kind of opens around you. There's all this space that now sort of appears in front of you. Because when you're leaning forward, you're taking up the space. Can you feel that? You're stepping into the space. You're filling the space. And the space kind of contracts around you. But then you lean back and the space opens. And there's all this room, and there's now all this room for things to come to you. So you're no longer leaning out into the world trying to get things. You're now leaning back, drawing things towards you. It's a very different physiology. It's a very different energetic. And we can start to feel such a deep connection to our sensuality just by changing that, just by changing our physiology, just by changing our breathing and starting to have a more sensual relationship with the world. So notice how as you lean back, you can start to feel and sense the world. So you're not out in the world, singular focus, you're in your body, expanded awareness. And now I want you to place your awareness on one object and just hold your gaze on that object and start to notice all the details of it. Its color, its shape, its size, taking it all in through your eyes, breathing it in. Can you feel that? Getting really present to this object and just receiving it into your body as you hold your awareness on it. Now that in itself is a sensual practice. I want you to notice what it would be like to move through the world and you are breathing in the world. You are breathing in through your senses the entire experience of this reality around you. It's very, very different to being in that linear focused, goal outcome driven, A to B, trying to get to my result, head down, not even looking at anything, versus leaning back, relaxing, opening your awareness and soaking in the world, soaking in everything through your senses and fully experiencing it. So a woman in her sensuality, and this is one of the key things to start to tap into our sensuality, is to lean back into our own bodies, lean back into ourselves, develop an inner awareness, right? Tap out of that leaning forward heady space. And notice how when you lean back, there's now all this space for you to draw things towards you. This makes you incredibly magnetic. A magnetic woman leans back and she draws things towards her through her energy. So that's something I'd love to invite you to practice, is just continuing to remind yourself to lean back and then hold your gaze on different objects and breathe them in and feel them and take them in through every one of your senses, and just start to notice how that feels in your body when you practice that. Okay, the second key to becoming a sensual, a magnetic woman, turning on your sensuality, becoming more magnetic, is to slow down. Slowing down is absolutely key to feeling more pleasure, to experiencing your sensuality, and to becoming way more magnetic. When you slow down, you feel everything so much more deeply. And when you slow down, you become so much more feelable. So a sensual woman is a feelable woman. This is when people can feel you. They feel your energy. They feel what you're radiating. And this is what creates magnetism. Magnetism is all about the energy that people feel from you. And the energy that you emanate is either magnetic or repelling. It's as simple as that. And when a woman's in that leaning forward, doing, hustling, trying to get, it's actually quite repelling. As soon as you step into the space, you push things away. When you lean back, you draw things towards you. And so when we slow down, we start to feel everything more deeply. This is the key to our sensuality, because if we're rushing, we can't feel. If we're moving fast, we can't feel. Most women, if they ever go into a sensual or sexual experience that moves too fast, they go numb because it's too much. We feel more deeply the slower that we go. So to become more sensual, I want you to practice slowing down the way you walk, walking more from your hips, slowing down the way you talk. Even notice as I slow down the way that I talk, do you feel or experience my words differently? Do you feel them more deeply when I speak them more slowly and sensually, right? Notice how they land in your body. Slow down the way you eat. I did a sensual eating practice with the women today on the call, and it was so beautiful to actually allow ourselves to truly savor and enjoy eating something without rushing through it. Slow down the way you kiss, slow down the way you make love, and just notice how much more you can feel when you go slow. I even did this in the embodiment practice today. As we were moving through practices, I kept inviting the women to slow down. Run your fingertips over your skin. This is a very sensual practice. We did this today. Run your fingertips over your skin, but go as slow as you can possibly go. Close down your eyes, run your fingers through your hair, over your lips, over your skin, and go as slow as you can go. And notice how much more you feel when you go slow. So slowing down allows you to experience everything more deeply through your 5 senses. It is absolutely key to being more sensual. is to slowing things down so that you can feel them more. And then your whole energy shifts because you're feeling things more deeply, more richly. That then oozes and emanates from you. And people can feel from you what you're feeling in your body. This is magnetism, where there's something you've cultivated that you're feeling in your body. It radiates from you and someone else feels it and they're like, I feel so drawn to that. Like there's something she's radiating that I just want to be around, okay? And I guarantee you, if you ever meet a woman who's super in her head, who's talking really fast, who's rushing, who's like not even in her body, she's going to feel very different to you than if you meet a woman who is so inhabited in her body, who's leaning back into herself, who's slow in how she speaks or moves or expresses, so that you can feel every single word she says. It lands in your body. You are so much more feelable. You are more feelable to the masculine and you're more feelable in general, and this makes you more magnetic. Okay, because you draw things towards you based on the energy you're radiating. And the more that you can feel and slow down, the more tapped in you are to that energy in your body and the more you're radiating it. Okay. The third key to turning on your sensuality and your magnetism is to feel, is to connect more deeply with your felt experience of life. So sensuality comes through your felt sense, your 5 senses. The felt sense is how we experience life through our 5 senses: touch, taste, sight, sound, and smell. Now here's the challenge. To connect with your felt sense, your senses, your ability to feel everything through your senses requires you to be able to feel in general. And to be able to feel requires a connection with your body. Now, this is why I work so deeply with women on embodiment, because so many women are not only afraid to feel, but they don't know how to feel. And women cut off from feeling as a coping mechanism. They cut off from feeling as a survival mechanism. They cut off from feeling because feeling feels too big, too much, too overwhelming. And so many women are afraid to feel. The problem is when you numb and avoid and cut off to feeling your pain and discomfort because you don't want to feel that, you are also numbing and cutting off to feeling pleasure. It's all feeling. It's all sensation. Cutting off to one feeling cuts you off to the other. And so this is the issue so many women have, why they're so disconnected from their pleasure, from their sensuality, from their turn on, is because they've done everything they can to avoid feeling the uncomfortable stuff. And it's now cut them off from feeling the good stuff as well. So any numbness you create around feeling, any avoidance you have around feeling, affects all of your feelings, not just your negative ones. Yeah, it will cut you off to feeling joy and pleasure and goodness. So we expand our capacity to feel pleasure and to feel pleasure through our sensuality by allowing ourselves to feel everything. And so part of this, of becoming more sensual, is expanding your capacity to feel. And maybe you want to start with letting yourself feel feelings that feel more safe to you. Start letting yourself open to feeling. And this might be the feeling of your finger on your skin, the feeling of food touching your lips. This morning we were rubbing a strawberry on our lips. It might be letting yourself feel the feeling of grass under your feet, or the ocean on your skin, or the feeling of a silk dress or lingerie against your skin, the feel of your partner's touch. It might be letting yourself feel the emotions of joy and pleasure and lightness when they come into your life. And so we have to start allowing ourselves to feel. And this is often the place I start with women is overcoming their fear of feeling and expanding their capacity to feel the full range of their feminine experience, both discomfort and pleasure. So a woman who is magnetic is tapped into her felt sense, because as we said, a magnetic woman is a feelable woman. She has to be able to feel herself to be felt by others. Yeah, she has to be able to feel her own energy, her own sensations, her own emotions to be felt by others. So often women are like, he doesn't hear me, he doesn't feel me and what I'm feeling. It's because you're not truly feeling what you're feeling. And he can't feel you if you can't feel you, okay? So we become magnetic to what we want to receive the more deeply we can feel and then ooze and radiate what we're feeling. And if we're numb, and if we're not feeling anything, and if we're disembodied, it's not possible for us to be magnetic. It's just not. So it's incredibly important we start to work with letting ourselves feel. Key 4 of becoming more magnetic, tapping into your sensuality, is sound, making sound. Now this one's going to be edgy because a lot of women have resistance to sound. But sound is a huge part of sensuality. But I think this is one of the edgiest ones for women. So how do you feel about making sound? About moaning, groaning, sighing, screaming? How do you feel about making sound? A sensual woman makes sound because there is a transmission that flows through her sound. And a woman's voice, a woman's sound can be very magnetic depending on where it comes from in her body, her head or her womb. And so one thing I work on in Divine Femme is helping women speak from their womb and speak from their heart rather than their heads, because you have a very different transmission energetically as a woman when you speak from your womb and your heart and your body than you do when you speak from your mind. Okay, it's felt and experienced very differently. This is when you speak to your partner. This is when you speak in the online space. This is when you speak into the world on a podcast, wherever you're using your voice. This is when you're just making sound. There's a deep embodied transmission that comes through your voice and comes through your sound. And the deeper and richer that is in terms of the place it comes from in your body, the more potent and magnetic and impactful it is. Our sound is an incredible gift as a woman. So we can use our sensuality to explore our sound. Like when you eat a yummy meal, moan, groan, lick your lips, yum, make sound. If you're feeling relaxed and at peace, sigh. Let those big, deep, open mouth exhales roll through you. If you're feeling frustrated or angry, groan, roar, scream. If you are feeling pleasure and ecstasy, scream, but in a different way, right? See how there's this whole different transmission that can come through our sound. And when we let sound move through our bodies, it amplifies what we're feeling. It amplifies the sensation. So when I was working with the women today in our sensuality practice, I was inviting them to make sound that represented how they were feeling. And when you do this, you open up your throat chakra, you open up your jaw, you open up the channel of energy through your body from your cervix up to your throat, and you let that transmission move through you. This not only amplifies your sensuality, I want you to experiment. Eat a strawberry or eat something you love to eat and don't make a sound, or then eat something you love to eat and then moan and sigh and groan through the whole thing. And I want you to notice the difference. It might feel uncomfortable, but notice how it amplifies your pleasure. It amplifies the experience. And then notice how your partner responds when he hears you moaning over a strawberry or a piece of chocolate. He'll be like, hey, what's going on over there? Because he's responding to your sound. The world is responding to your sound. And this is why a woman's voice can be very magnetic. We're magnetic as women when we make sound, we use our voice and we speak a transmission that comes from deep inside our bodies and from a place of deep embodied connection. And the fifth element of awakening your sensuality and your magnetism is to move in a flowing way. Move like liquid. Move like water. Move like warm honey. Move like a flowing river. A sensual woman moves like liquid. Yeah, we flow. Soft, flowy, gooey, melty movements. They're very hypnotic and they're very magnetic. Have you ever seen Hawaiian women do the hula? It is this hypnotic, watery, fluid, feminine energy that is so hypnotizing and so beautiful. And we are naturally magnetized and drawn towards that. So whenever I'm guiding a woman through an embodiment practice, we did it today, I'm always guiding them, move like water. Let your joints be fluid. Imagine there is water moving through your joints. Imagine there is liquid gold dancing off your fingertips. Imagine you're dripping in honey. Move like that. Bring fluidity through your hips, your shoulders, your wrists, your arms, your elbows, your knees, your neck. Yeah. Whereas when we move in a tight, rigid, robotic, contracted way, which we do when we're in our masculine and in our head, it feels very different. It is quite jarring and quite abrasive. And there's no real transmission that comes off a woman like that. She's not feelable. You can't feel her. It's just like a brick wall. So I want you to notice the difference and how it feels in your own body when you move like water. Like, can you walk from your hips in a sensual way? Can you almost glide across the room in the lightest steps like you're walking on water? Can you soften your shoulders so they melt down your back? Can you close your eyes and imagine yourself like water or gooey honey with luscious liquid flowing all through you, and that's guiding how you're moving your body? Yeah, move as though you are flowing this liquid through your body, through your joints, opening different parts of your body to allow it to flow even more. Okay, so this is an incredibly sensual way of moving, because when you're moving this way, you are feeling. You're feeling every movement. You're feeling the energy moving through your body. You are finding pleasure in just simply moving your body. Put on music and move like water and notice how you feel. You will awaken your eros, you will awaken your aliveness, you will awaken your pleasure and your turn on. And you will be filled with this luscious energy that you've awakened inside your own body that, again, makes you incredibly magnetic. Can you see how, as women, when we can source this from inside our own body, through slowing down, through feeling more, through moving differently, through speaking differently, through soaking up life more through our five senses and enjoying the pleasure of every single experience? Can you see how nourishing that is? The reason sensuality makes us so magnetic is because it fills us up, it nourishes us, it connects us back in with ourselves and our body and our felt sense. It gets us tapped into pleasure, into goodness. And because it fills us up, it makes us glow. It makes us radiant. And all of this creates a delicious magnetic energy where you just lean back into yourself, sink into that beautiful energy inside your body. And in that space, you feel so whole, so complete, not lacking anything, not missing anything, not needing anything. you feel no need to go out into the world and grasp for things you want, or grasp from a person for scraps of attention, or for a little dopamine hit through someone liking your post on Instagram, or someone swiping on you in a dating app. Why would you want that when you can access this deep, rich pleasure and fullness inside your own body? And imagine being a woman moving through the world like that. Moving through the world carrying this inside your own body. Oh, the whole way you experience life would be different. The whole way people would experience you would be different. So this is what becomes available when we tap into our sensuality. So my love, if you are curious to explore this further, come along to Reclaim Your Feminine, my free training happening next week on Thursday, the 13th of February. We're going to tap into even more of these juicy feminine conversations. You're going to get some beautiful takeaways and starting points for how to begin to live more from your feminine energy. And if you are so ready to have this be the way you live, the woman you are, this whole new experience of your life, of your relationships, of yourself, come in to Divine Femme. This is an incredibly immersive, transformative 6-month experience of embodiment, of feminine healing, of feminine reclamation. There's an incredible curriculum, live calls, community, all here waiting for you to hold you through becoming the woman that you're truly ready to be. I would love to see you in there if you want to join us for this intake before the doors close on Sunday, the 16th of February. So I hope you enjoyed this luscious episode. There was a beautiful transmission flowing through this one. I hope you receive it and you're feeling it. If you love this episode, make sure you're subscribed to Awaken Radio so you never miss an episode. You can share this to your stories. You can share it with a friend. I would love to know your biggest takeaways. And until next time, thank you so much for being tuned in, and I will see you in our next episode. Bye.